Good morning. This is another good day. And let's jump right into it. Today I'd like to touch on a topic that always bothered me when at the Seders since I was a little child. And here's the thing. You probably came across a 10 Plagues kit, Aseret Hamakot. There's all kinds of kits there that have little foam, little balls for hail, and there's little frog stickers for the frogs, and a little red something for blood. I remember when when my son was in elementary school, we would. I remember the first Passover where I decided to make a whole show and tell for the 10 plagues for my son to make it fun for him. So we had a fan, like a large ceiling fan, above the table, and I took little cutouts of frogs and I put them up on top of each blade of the fan, and I bought red dye, and it was in a little tube, and I wrapped it up with napkin and scotch taped it so it looked like a white little stick. And when it came time at the Seder to do blood, so I had a glass of pure water, and I took my little white stick and I kind of made a motion to hit the water and squeeze a little bit of the red, and it came out, and my son was so excited. My son thought that I was really making the miracle of the water happen again. It was a lot of fun. And I still have these kits, and I have the props, and my son is 21 now, so we don't do that anymore. Here's the thing about the 10 plagues. We often make a lot of fun of the 10 plagues part of the Seder. But come to think of it, there's nothing fun about it. This is serious, hard, painful inflictions that others, the Egyptians, suffered as the price of our liberation. Always bothered me. So I want to talk today about the 10 plagues a little bit, and kind of go to that place that, if this is a question that you've asked yourself, so thank you. So let's look at that question together. I was always happy that we got out of Egypt and went to freedom, but why did the Pharaoh's firstborn, what was the firstborn's, why was it the firstborn's fault that he had to die for his father, the Pharaoh's misdeeds? So let's quickly review the 10 plagues, just to establish where it comes in the order of the Seder and what is the purpose of it. So the 10 plagues are the Dam, Tzfardea, Kinim, Arov, Dever, Shchin, Barad, Arbe, Choshech, Makat Bechorot, blood, frogs, lice, numerous wild creatures, livestock, plague, skin boils, hail, locusts, darkness, death of the firstborn. So, in the Magid section of the Seder, this comes before the meal, we tell the story. In the Haggadah, we read the story, different versions of it. And the story in a nutshell is, we were slaves in Egypt. We were really suffering. God heard our cries. God asked Moses to go and tell the Pharaoh to let us go, let the people go. Moses did so, together with Aaron and his sister Miriam. The Pharaoh refused, and Moses said, well, our God, Adonai, is going to bring upon you plagues until you do. After plague 1, the Pharaoh didn't budge. After plague 2, the Pharaoh didn't budge. 3, 4, 5. Each time, after each plague, Moses went back and said, will you let us go? Pharaoh said no, until the last plague, the death of the firstborn. So that is the end of the story before the glorious Exodus through the miracle of the split sea. And in the Haggadah, we read the 10 plagues, and each time we read a plague, we dip our pinky in the wine, and we spill it on our plate. So there's 1 drop for each plague. That's the practice. So let me share you, like I have been, share with you the beautiful teaching here brought by my colleague and friend, Reb Michael Kagan of Jerusalem, that's written in this beautiful Haggadah with his commentary called the Holistic Haggadah. I recommend it if you'd like to get it. It's available on Amazon, the Holistic Haggadah by Michael Kagan of Jerusalem. And here are his words, his reflections on the 10 plagues. When reading each of the 10 plagues, a drop of wine is split using one's little finger dipped into the cup. This is usually understood to be a symbolic gesture for reducing our level of joy. And this is in recognition of the suffering of the Mitzrim, Hebrew for Egyptians. What a great thing. Don't you feel so good about ourselves, about us Jews? I always felt so good. We're so merciful. You know, here the Egyptians are suffering, and in the middle of our celebration, what do? We reduce our joy to be empathetic. We are just so great. We're so humane. We're so compassionate. But no, says Michael Kagan, honestly, 10 drops out of 4 glasses of wine, hardly a reduction in joy at the death of thousands of Mitzrim. Now take a breath as we look at our own lives, says Michael. And honestly, the whole Seder, this whole exercise, this whole celebration is there for us to look at our own lives. It's not celebrating something that happened in the past. It's I and you. Let's sit at the Seder as if we, tonight, at this night of the Seder, we are leaving Egypt. So the Torah, the tradition calls us to personalize the Seder, personalize the metaphor, and make it our own journey. So Michael invites us here to take a breath. Now take a breath as we look at our own lives. In that context, what are the 10 plagues in our own lives? Who have we caused to suffer so that we can be here now, living the life that we are living, at the level of freedom that we have presently chosen? Reading these words. Who have we inflicted? Who has suffered? Who has suffered? First of all, our mothers. Think of the discomfort of pregnancy and the pain of birth. The spilt blood, literally. Are you a firstborn? I am firstborn. If so, then, you were the unconscious cause of any suffering endured by your parents when you ended their period of freedom as a pre-parenthood couple. Makat Bechorot, which is literally Hebrew for the death or the blow, literally the blow of the firstborn. In other words, the plague of the death of the firstborn could literally be read as the plague come about for the parents when the firstborn has entered the scene. Obviously, great joy for them as well. I mean, I would not, um, I, I would not for any price in the world not have wanted my firstborn to enter my life. What a blessing! But what a change! What a plague! What a taking away of freedom! How about the pain we inflicted upon our siblings? Boy, siblings know how to how to plague one another. I certainly did. How about the suffering inflicted upon our parents? I'm sorry, our partners in relationships. The pain inflicted during the ending of a relationship. Even the pain that we inflict upon our own children. What about the pain we inflict upon the planet? I particularly connect to that. We are at living at a time where it's not only people who are oppressed. We as a society, as a modern, technological, advanced civilization, we're oppressing the world. We're exploiting, just like the slaves in Egypt were exploited for their labor. We're exploited resources. We're killing out whole species. So what about the pain that we inflict on the planet? What about the pain we have inflicted upon ourselves? What about that? Are we compassionate with ourselves? Do you have a little bit of what so many experience as self-sabotage? How come? Some of the pain is consciously inflicted. Some of the pain is unconscious. Many times in order to get out of Mitzrayim, pain was necessarily inflicted, like being born, like getting divorced. Sometimes there is no way but to pass through pain. I mean, there's the cliche that there's no pain, no gain, right? So as we're exploring this, it's becoming evident that life is full of plagues. There was a price to pay in terms of human suffering by coming out of Mitzrayim, in the story and in our own lives. There was a price to pay in terms of human suffering by coming back to the land of Israel. And this is not about guilt. This is about recognizing that there is a price for every step on the journey, on our life's journey. There's a price to pay on every step of spiritual evolution, on becoming better and bigger and deeper and wiser and more fulfilled. There's always a price to pay. And as I'm saying this at the risk of the voice that comes in and says, bad me. But no, this is not what it's about. Back here to Reb Michael's words. This is not about pointing the accusing index finger. This is about opening our hearts to the truth and using the little finger that points to the Torah when it is held high and open. This is not about being sad. It is about being aware in our joy. You know, it's always, for me anyway, it's always uncomfortable to talk about pain. Who wants to think about it? Let me suffer quietly. How many Jewish grandmothers does it take to change a light bulb? I'll sit in the dark. I love that joke. I'll sit and suffer quietly. Who wants to look? Who wants to shed a light? Who wants to turn a light bulb? But here, we're looking for the right measure. We're looking for the way to take a drop of plague, to bring it to awareness. So we're not just in a drunk stupor of pure wine without the balance of the stepping stones, the hot rocks that we step on as we move forward in life. What is the goal of becoming aware of the pain that we have inflicted along the way? Back to Reb Michael. To reduce to zero the pain that we will inflict during the rest of the journey. The more I'm aware, the more I acknowledge, the more liberated of the need for pain I am. To move into the messianic consciousness and bring an end to suffering. The more I acknowledge, the less suffering I'm going to step into moving forward. So this Seder night, let us consciously look at the suffering, look at the price of freedom, of growth, of evolution. You know, clearly, when we consider the theme of Passover, it's very abstract for us, especially here in America. It's very abstract. In fact, historically, America is probably the society, the condition, the circumstance that affords us Jews more freedom than we ever have experienced historically. Yes, there is the golden age of Spain, and Jews did very well at that time. This is about the 10th, 11th, 12th century. Under the Muslim Empire, Jews fared very well. But on the whole, the experience of America, you know, with the protections of civil rights and the Constitution and the separation of church and state and the laws that protect all minorities, really afford us the experience of liberation, of freedom. America is about freedom. And taking that to the internal work, to the psyche, to the wisdom of knowing oneself. The more I acknowledge the price that I inflict on others and upon myself, as I try my best to grow towards God, towards the light, towards liberation, towards freedom, towards self-actualization, towards being a good Jew and a good human. What a privilege that I can sit at the Seder and reflect on a deeper level of freedom, a deeper level of liberation, and acknowledge the suffering to myself and others that one experiences along the way. So I want to wish us a Seder of 4 and more large and filled cups of wine and only 10 little drops of plagues. Thank you for sharing this teaching with me here today. I'm Rabbi Reuben Modik. I'm with Makom Halev in Hebrew Learning Circles. I wish you an amazing Passover. This is a good day. Wishing you a good day, good steps from here till the end of your day with very little plagues, with a lot of wine, a lot of joy. Check us out on the website, makomhalev.org, makom-halev.org, also HebrewLearningCircles.org, and come around for more. We'll be back tomorrow with another teaching about the Seder. Goodbye for now.